how primitive building videos are staged honestly may be the best video of the year. And it's not because it exposed a multi-million dollar industry made on lies, because let's face it, most people knew that these videos are completely fake, and we completely did not care about it. No, this video is the best because of a completely different reason. So let's get into it and figure out what that reason is.
Almost every single primitive building channel is underpinned by countless different lies, and we've got tons of evidence to prove it. Now, we need to put an emphasis on the fact that this is most primitive building channels, and certainly not all of them. After sifting
He means 99% of all primitive building videos are fake, because that seems to honestly be true when you look at YouTube.
through forum post upon forum post about the ways in which these primitive builders lie in order to generate sometimes up to 500 million views per video, users continue to mention one name over and over, crediting him as legitimate amongst the sea of phonies: primitive technology.
This guy is the OG who started all. And as much as I understand, he started it as a hobby. He did not even think it's gonna go anywhere, but turns out he hit an absolute gold mine.
1.4 million subscriber channel, which is run by an Australian named John Plant, basically invented the primitive construction genre, all the way down to the sound design of silence mixed with rainforest noises, with primitive technology even stating in a Reddit AMA that originally it was out of laziness in not putting narration in the videos, but then the silent format became popular, so I kept it that way. When going back to the beginning of these silent relaxing videos, it becomes pretty obvious as to why they're credited as seeming pretty legit in terms of authenticity. Primitive technology cuts no corners in showing how each stage of the construction is completed legitimately.
Now, I would like to point out, Sunny's video is actually pretty bad at pointing out why this guy is legit and why the other guys are not legit. Because if you're in reality gonna be this dude and make everything from scratch, you can't upload the full video. Because the full video most likely took him, at the bare minimum, depending on the project, a week, or in most cases, probably multiple weeks, and sometimes even most likely months. So, the fact that this guy just shows more steps in how he did things is absolutely in no way justification that he is legit. But this guy is legit. I have seen his videos. It's very convincing, especially compared to the other things.
For example, when examining his very first video, he shows the axe head being sharpened, a log then being cut by the axe, then the logs being crafted together in a way that feels realistic. All of this is accompanied by specific captions explaining what's going on in that very moment, alongside a full description of the build, all the way down to how long the construction process took. His builds never include swimming pools or anything over the top, yet feel impressive as they seem to be on the cutting edge of what is and isn't possible to build by hand. The legitimacy of some of his...
I just want to point out that what can be built by hand is... We build bigger things, bigger and better things than this by hand every single day as humanity. So it is impressive what he is doing, but the way that this is presented, it almost seems like the fact that we're currently building bigger things than this is a miracle. And I kind of find that a little bit funny.
More impressive builds, such as this brick hut, can be supported by YouTube comments such as this one, which stated, "I actually know John personally. He was a really good friend. We live in the same town, although I haven't seen him since he went viral. I have fond memories of him telling us that he was building huts out bush and had no idea they were so legit, before going on to credit him as a pretty authentic guy from a personal relationship standpoint."
Okay, also, comments like this are not actually proof of anything, because, the most random commenter can comment anything. Oh yeah, sure. I know that guy. I was his conjoined twin. Yeah, he's great. These comments prove nothing. This is just some rando. This might be some rando who just says it.
All of this is incredibly important to understand, as primitive technology's videos set a baseline for what should and shouldn't be achievable in a natural setting. Additionally, primitive technology has been kind enough to provide us with a statement, which will be referred to as we look at the channels on the other end of the spectrum, also known as the fakers. The fundamental problem with the genre is that with so much time between camera cuts, there's plenty of time to set things up illegitimately, and with primitive technology...
Again, that is not true. The amount of camera cuts doesn't prove anything.
Technology's very first video receiving over 44,000 Reddit upvotes and 30 million views, it's no surprise that copycats with less integrity began to pop.
Man, look at these videos. Just from these thumbnails, you should be able to tell that this is absolutely without question fake. Like, I'm not gonna get into the details, but if you have ever held a shovel in your hands in your life, you know that this is fake.
Pop up left, right, and center. On these channels, the buildings were taller, the slides were longer, and the water was suspiciously more blue.
I actually never thought about the water. I completely did not think about the water being too blue. I literally did not care about that. Like a normal person, and let's face it, this is probably most people. When I saw these videos, I clicked on them because I was thinking to myself, oh wow, these guys are making just like really big cool sandcastles. I want to see that. That seems like a good time. I was not thinking, man, is this gonna be legit? Because the people at the very start where you could see that he went through forum posts. The people who need to go on forums to argue about this being fake or not are people who have never worked with their hands in their goddamn entire lives.
Blue color. Why is it so blue? Probably because the top is probably dying or something. There's no reason for it to look so blue like that.
Even more interestingly, almost all of these channels range from the exact same area, being Cambodia, Thailand, or Vietnam.
That is not really too interesting.
Yet often geotag the United States, claim to be living
That is also not honestly too interesting.
in the United States, and have their social blade country set to the United States. The overall production and build quality on these channels is arguably far more impressive than the OG primitive technology, to the point where you have to ask yourself, are they really creating these structures out of mud and sticks? Well,
I would argue that the fact that they have a lot more production value does not necessarily mean that they are not actually not real.
when you do a little bit of research, the answer to this question is most certainly no. The best evidence for this is found when looking at a 5 million subscriber channel called Primitive Technology Idea, whose failure to cover up the ways in which they fake their videos make them almost comical to watch. Take for example this episode titled Building Underground Water Maze, Crocodile to the Secret Underground House and Swimming Pool, in which the first shot shows two men
Okay, so this is the first one. I know that every single person who has worked in construction most likely instantaneously cringed every single time they saw these videos. Because this is the number one thing already visible here that you never do when actually working a labor-intensive work. You never go full throttle. And in every single primitive technology video, you see them just going full throttle on it. If you do that, you're gonna pump yourself out in like legitimately 2 or 3 minutes. If something required you 1 hour to do, if you're always going full throttle, it most likely will require you now 2 or 3 hours to finish, because that is just the most inefficient way to actually work.
digging on the surface, then in the next frame they're in an 8-foot deep trench.
Okay, so this is the part where I honestly should have, when I saw it the first time, should have said, yeah, this is absolutely fake. Because it is fake. Anyone who has ever dug a hole understands how actually insanely hard it is to dig a hole in general. Digging an 8 feet deep hole is absolutely mind-numbingly hard work, and it takes a very long time. And that's implying you have a pointy end shovel and a well, not pointy end shovel, the straight shovel, so you can actually take things out. But here they are using some kind of sticks. To just dig a hole that deep with something like sticks in your hands to shovel out the dirt would take you weeks. Probably a week at the bare minimum. If you were one guy, to make it this big. But it's gonna get worse.
Now, if they're digging this deep with sticks, how are they avoiding large rocks and potential tree roots from, you know...
And this is the part that I thought is stupid, because this is a very American way of thinking. Soil around the world is not equal everywhere. I always presume that these videos are done in somewhere, you know, belong, I don't know, the place where India is located, more or less, aka Asia-ish. So that means that their soil is most likely extremely not muddy, but I forgot the clayish. And if you have ever tried to dig in clay, you probably know how absolutely impossible that is. Even with a shovel, digging in clay is arguably as hard, if not sometimes harder, than digging in a place with a lot of rocks. It is absolutely insane. To dig something this deep, two guys with pretty much just sticks without actual shovels, would take them literally most likely around 2 to 3 weeks if they are really good at digging. It's absolutely impossible to do this in a day or two. 3 weeks minimum, just this small spot right there. And other projects where they have dug even deeper and even wider, most likely would take a legitimately months, like half a year to finish.
The massive line of trees seen just behind them. Are they
The massive line of trees also actually means nothing. It doesn't matter that there are trees there. Trees have two types. Every plant has only two types of root systems. Either it's a root system going pretty much almost straight down, or it's very viney and to all directions and like that. The fact that there's a tree line, like, I don't know, 20 meters away in that location, doesn't necessarily mean that the place that they are digging at is gonna be filled with things like tree, uh, tree roots and stuff like that. That doesn't necessarily mean that. You can easily find places where that's not gonna be a problem. So, critique like that is absolutely nonsensically stupid, honestly.
being assisted by large machinery? Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but for
Okay, this is the part. This is one of the two times where it actually struck me out, and I said, "Oh right, this is absolutely fake." Because again, I didn't care that it's fake. I didn't even think about that. But when I saw this, I don't think this was the exact channel because a lot of them do the same thing. It's like getting water from a river, with a bamboo shoot. Essentially, it's an aqueduct. And making an aqueduct is almost nigh on impossible with shit like this, because that implies that you have a river that's, I don't know, multiple meters above the place that you are actually making your house and want the water to go. It's nigh on impossible to legitimately do that.
first, let's focus on the idea that it's only two people doing these impressively large primitive constructions.
Oh, and the second one was when they made some kind of fish trap or some kind of seafood trap, and they came back, and, well, what do you know? They have perfect fish that are already seemingly dead. Ah, I know it's a little bit stupid that those were my two times when I said, yep, this is definitely fake, but I didn't care. Like most people, I flat out did not care. It was entertaining. And as long as it's entertaining, why do I care?
Projects, if that's what they were attempting to portray.
Okay, look at this. If you're trying, that's like no debate. This is fake because this is literally not how physics work. Look at this.
If that's what they were attempting
See, the water just suddenly starts pouring there. If you're using a Roman aqueduct style of way of transporting water, that water is flowing there non-stop. There should be water seemingly already flowing non-stop through there, or you should be seeing a puddle or something like that. But the moment they connected, the water just suddenly magically starts to flow. Yeah, that means that either it's from some kind of pump or something like that, or it's more people than that and they just yelled connect it now or some shit like that, which also seems very unlikely. Like, if you pay attention, it's obviously fake. The real funny part about these videos was when this came out, how all of the, oh my god, I am so smart, big influencers, big YouTubers, big Twitch streamers watched this, and they were like, I knew all along that this is fake. Oh yeah, sure. No tree roots. Yes, no tree. Oh my god, it was hilarious. This video essentially is special because it just shows the absolute duality of people that exist. There are people who have actually done work with their hands, and you know from experience that everything here is pretty much impossible the way that it's shown, even if you concentrate just for a small smidget of a bit. And then there are people who have never worked with their hands, and then they need to defend themselves and say, oh yeah, I knew that this is fake all along. Yeah, I am so smart, I knew it. It's pathetic. This is what this video really showed. The duality of people that exist.
Trey, it probably would have been best not to include the clip where a guy in a white t-shirt can be seen working on the project.
Yeah, that's a pretty obvious dead giveaway, also true.
In the background. Yet if it were just these three guys,
I mean, look at this shit. You know how actually long it would take you to do all this by hand, with good shovels? You're talking about literally months and months and months of work. Not to mention making these crocodiles probably also takes a day. And if you're, I don't know, in a place that seemingly is wet, because this place kind of seems a little bit on the wettish side, that there's a lot of rain. I think that should be the case, that this is that place. None of these sculptures are gonna last. Like, I mean, you literally just need to stop for a second, think objectively, and you know this is fake. The real question is, do you care that it's fake? No, you don't. Most of us never did.
just these three guys, that still wouldn't be that bad. However, further evidence suggests that they have far more help than this. At the start of the week, a community post was made on this channel in the hope that someone who had worked with one of these primitive builders would be willing to share their experience in doing so. We received countless emails which were all super helpful, yet one email stood out as being incredibly unique. That email was incredibly from one of the cameramen who works for one of these larger Southeast Asian primitive building channels. His name and the channel he works for have both been blurred out, as it'd be a little...
Yeah, this is probably most likely fake, by the way. This would not absolutely surprise me if it's fake. Because this is seemingly decent English. Like, look at this. He hi, coma. Yeah, Asians are not typically known for their great English-speaking capabilities. Typically, Asian countries always get translators for English and not. So, I'm kind of doubting the validity of this email. My assumption is that someone who just wanted a bit of attention from a big YouTuber sent him this email with hopes that it's gonna be legit.
Unfair for him to get in trouble for simply trying to help out, but the email began by stating, as you may have suspected, it's not as streamlined as the video would suggest. It is a large operation, as you may suspect, with a large team of us behind it. After he then offered to answer any questions we had about their channel, we attempted to figure out how many different people will work on the actual construction part of the project from start to finish, to which he would respond, it is depending on the scale of the project, but no less than 1 dozen or more, before going on to explain that within his team, there is a director for the acting done. There is also a hired architect to obviously make sure the structure will not collapse and will last long enough to film in, and obviously afterwards.
I never really thought about the fact that you do need an architect for this to a degree, because just digging down and hoping that the sides don't kind of collapse in some situations could set you back like literally weeks of progress, especially if you need to fill in the place that collapsed. So, that's actually something I did not think about ever. But yeah, it's honestly a reasonable thing to suggest.
Many editors are involved. In case an email from someone who works from one of these primitive builders isn't enough evidence, it's time to introduce a different...
By the way, I did not see a single smidgen. Like, this is the video. This actual video has zero evidence in it. We have a YouTube comment from a guy who claims to know the guy. Then we have an email from a guy who claims to be involved with these people, and now he's risking everything just to expose them for, not even any amount of fame or any personal gain, it seems like. It's kind of hilarious.
Channel called Photo Expression, who incredibly stumbled upon one of these primitive construction sites before capturing over 8 minutes of footage with a drone. We'll refer to different parts of this footage throughout our video, but for now it can answer the question of how many people are really working on these sites. There's initially a clip where 8 different workers can be seen standing around.
Now, I mean, you see, this is actual proof of something, not just a random email that honestly he could have made himself. This is why I kind of don't like the video too much, because none of this is proof. This is the actual first legit ounce of proof that they have.
around a rectangular hole in the jungle, followed by another grainier clip from a far distance where somewhere between 7 and 10 people can be seen building a swimming pool. If they were honest about how many people were working on each project, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it should be noted that some of these videos,
Like, imagine, like, look at this. This is, I don't know, is this sandstone? But look at this. They hit it, and nothing's coming off. And now look at how deep they are in. This is literally almost the same as carving stuff in stone. It's absolutely insane. Something this big would literally take two people with good equipment, with not electronic equipment, like a year and a half to just dig. It would be insane. There's no way. You just need to stop for a minute and think, and you're like instantaneously, no way. But again, do you care? No. Look at this. It's a giant sandcastle. It's absolutely awesome. Look at what is this? Aladdin or something? Amazing. I love it. Who cares? It's fake.
each project, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. But it should be noted that some of these videos specifically state in the description that I've been working hard with my two friends about 100 days to completely build, when in reality it's a whole team working for only 3 to 10 days depending on the project, as mentioned in the email response.
Oh yeah, 3 to 10 days with actual heavy equipment. Yeah. Two people only 100 days. That seems a little bit dicey. Also, this is a hindsight 2020 type of thing. But if it took two people 100 days to make that, they would well make, like, I don't know, at least 10 or 20 videos about that shit. Not just like one video from start to finish. They would milk it. They would absolutely milk it. Like, you work for 100 days to make one video that's maybe, if you're lucky, without an audience, you're gonna get 1 million views. Yeah, that's good money in, like, Indonesia, but, like, come on.
About 100 days to completely build, when in reality it's a whole team working for only 3 to 10 days depending on the project, as mentioned in the email response from the cameraman. So if they're being untruthful about the time period as well as how many people are working on each project, what else are they lying about?
Wait, what else can they lie about? Like, this is the whole actual shtick. This is the whole literal thing that they just make it.
Well, how about the incredible fire pits that they seem to create effortlessly? Going back to the statement made to us by Primitive Technology, he seemed to imply that maybe the fire making in their videos was fake. It's hardly surprising that he brought this up, as when you compare his meticulous method of creating fire in the wild to the fire making of these Southeast Asian primitive channels, as mentioned previously, it becomes comical.
Can't actually even see it, by the way. Is that even Flint and Tinder? I'm not sure. But yeah, this is probably obviously fake. Well, I shouldn't say probably. It's obviously fake. Nothing not drenched in goddamn tons of gasoline lights up like that. And again, this is what I'm talking about. You can tell that this is fake just because you have once in your life cooked barbecue and tried to set up the grill and light it up. Like, you know how that works, and this is just drenched in gasoline or some other flammable substance, and that's just calling it a day. It's insane. It's insane that there are legitimately people who thought about this and came to the conclusion, nah, this is not fake. Nah, this cannot be fake. Like, look at the fire. Oh yeah, this is what happens when you have no real world experience. This is what happens when you have never worked with your hands. This is what happens when all your knowledge is at best theoretical.
They slap a couple of rocks together before beginning an explosive fire on large logs with no kindling whatsoever. John went on to state that if they've faked simpler things, then they're most certainly faking more complicated ones, which turns out to be true. As when looking at another video by Primitive Technology Idea, it becomes obvious.
I mean, like, look at that.
That not only are these guys faking simple things such as fire, these guys are also faking the most labor-intensive exercise of all, the digging process itself. This video with over 63 million views begins as most do. A shirtless guy draws a big circle and begins to dig it out.
Again, never, absolutely never go full throttle if you're doing something labor intensive, there's no need. You're just gonna duck yourself out, and it's gonna take more time. It's gonna be more painful. You're just gonna get sores on your hands. Never do that.
It out. Only in the next frame, suddenly there's spray paint on the ground that they forgot to rub out. Additionally, on the wall,
Yeah, for the people who actually notice spray paint, either they got lucky, or there's some of those losers who sit in forums and debate, is this real or not, because they have never held a shovel in their hands. Oh my god. This video is amazing and just exposing how the world currently works and what kind of people live in it.
of the hole, these long smooth cuts can be seen, which are completely incomparable to the cuts being made by the stick. Well, there's a reason for this. Turns out spray paint marks weren't the only thing that they forgot to rub out, as in the minutes that follow, excavated tracks can be seen here, 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 and here.
I mean, yeah, oh, I mean, maybe. I honestly can't tell, because then that's not. It's 1 day old excavator tracks in that case, I would say, because let's be a little bit real here. Yeah, if someone tells you those are excavator tracks, yeah, okay, I kind of see it. But if no one told me, I would have never noticed it there, because they're probably like a day or two old or something like that at this point. Because if the excavator tracks aren't just like a fluffy small thing. No, they're visible as fuck.
In a different video by the same channel, the same person can be seen working very hard digging out a similar hole, which to their credit contains no excavator tracks around it. One mistake they did make, however, was that they forgot to take the actual excavator out of the top right hand corner. According to the email sent to us by the cameraman,
That's hilarious, by the way.
in one of these channels, approximately 70% of the digging is completed by machinery, whilst 30% is completed by hand, given how much of the work lies in simply digging. But men still do plenty of digging, as you may guess in small underground spaces, it is impossible to fit a skid steer loader in the hole. Most of the actual construction...
Again, the fact that someone from Asia or Indonesia or India has this good of English, like digging semicolon, I don't use semicolons. Who uses semicolons in English? And this is like perfectly, dude, there is absolutely no world where this email is not fake.
Is done by a hired team of specialized builders from my understanding, and they work with only intrinsic tools. The dirt is removed by skid steer loaders.
Most actual construction is done by hired teams of specialized builders from my... If he's a again, this is an email from a guy who is a cameraman, which means, bruh, how does he not know this? What do you mean from my understanding? He should know these things. He should know them from start to finish, because you're the fucking camera. Like, how do you not know? What do you mean from your understanding? Again, I thoroughly believe that this email is absolutely fake.
Offloaded elsewhere, and skid steer loaders are used in the initial boring process, whilst incrementally we film the builders doing superficial works on the hole. The video in which the excavator can be seen in plain sight then goes on to strangely display the collection of concrete from a river, which is the exact same clip reused from the previous video.
Honestly, like, why even fucking try? My boy, like, a fist bump. Why even try? Also, yeah, you can't get concrete from a river. That's just mud.
Now, why would they reuse the same clip twice in two different videos? Well,
because they're lazy and it literally does not matter. Again, most people don't think about it. Most people, you know what? I wouldn't even question it. Like, I know that you can't get concrete from a river because that's just absolutely redundantly stupid, but I'm like looking at the river like, yeah, he's barefooted there. Wow, there's a chance that some kind of, I don't know, a water snake is gonna bit him or something like that. I'm just looking at the aesthetics here, not the actual concept that this guy is trying to reinvent concrete from a goddamn riverbed.
Same clip twice in two different videos? Well, it's because collecting concrete from a river is completely and utterly bogus. Concrete doesn't grow in a river, according to a civil engineer who had commented on one of these videos. Earth cement.
And again, I love the fact that civil engineer. Yeah, I'm an astronaut, and you cannot get that anywhere other from Mars. In fact, since I'm an astronaut, I have been to Mars 15 times. I'm currently on the sun. I can tell you that that pond was actually on Mars's opposite end. Oh yeah, this video is fake because it's not even on Earth.
This is incredibly fake. Cement requires a precise combination of different raw materials and then receives considerable heat treatment in order to make the powder we all know and love/hate. What's even
Well, admittedly, this may sound smart, but most people... Okay, I shouldn't honestly say most people, because I have worked with cement. So, my dad told me that, yeah, cement is made from this and that and this and that and then heated. And it's a powder, and then you just add a water. So, it's not really occurring. Maybe it can occur in nature. I'm pretty sure it can, but whatever. The fact that this guy just says something on that level of, kind of smart. Again, it's not something that everyone knows, but a lot of people who have worked in construction obviously know that. It doesn't mean that this guy's a civil engineer. Like, this is a kangaroo court. This whole video is a kangaroo court. His proof for things being fake is as good as these videos not being fake. It's hilarious.
Funnier is that every single one of these channels has their own unique method for creating natural concrete. This channel's concrete is simply a mix of dirt and water, which, if you think about it for two...
I actually love it. Okay, so I think this is Sunny's actual thoughts, but the reality is... Okay, it's a very low reality, but again, I'm presuming that these guys have a very not necessarily muddy ground, but a clay-ish ground, which would technically mean maybe that they are in a spot where the clay is just the clay is just not moist, and adding water may actually turn the clay into from a powder to an actual clayish form, and that could be used. Like, that's a super long shot, but if I'm being super generous, that's a proposition I would never put my life on, but at least that's a possibility.
This channel's concrete is simply a mix of dirt and water, which, if you think about it for 2 seconds, doesn't create concrete and rather creates muddy water, or mud, which is just dirt.
Yeah, but then again, you actually have this thing called mud huts. So, you can actually make stuff out of mud. That, it's not concrete, but I don't think they honestly said that it is concrete.
After the water dries. This other channel gets a little bit more creative with it by taking a chunk out of a termite nest.
Oh, I have seen these guys. I know these guys. This is the biggest channel that I have watched. These guys' videos were in my feed for quite some time. These were the best.
Termite nest, grinding it down into powder, mixing it with water, then concreting.
Yeah, they had that termite nest thing. And the termite nest thing, actually, for a moment, I thought, wait, could that be legit with the termite nest? Because termites excrete saliva or something, some shit like that. They essentially excrete something that works like glue/concrete. Essentially, it's not mud. What termites make is not actually mud. So I was thinking maybe that could work.
An entire pool with this small chunk of termite nest. Yet neither of these compare to the fakest channel of them all, Primitive Technology Life, which decides to just skip the concrete altogether and go with good old rocks and dirt. However, that's not the only suspicious thing about this shot. You'll notice when
At least he did the tapping. At least he did the tapping. Look at that boy. He understands that he needs to compact the ground there as much as possible so it doesn't wobble.
This shot. You'll notice when looking at the bamboo that each branch has a suspiciously clean cut on the end. Compare this to Primitive Technology, the legitimate channel from Australia, who in one video displays what the end of a log should actually look like, and you'll notice...
Okay, I also would like to note that this is kind of a shit example, because, for example, where did we see our two best boys with the termites? Yeah, you see right here. Those guys just flat out use machetes and shit. They are not doing it with just their hands. They actually have legit iron, steel, and whatever tools. They're not pretending that they're doing it with their hands, at least. They legitimately show machetes and whatnot. So yeah, the fact that this is cut smoothly, very unlikely with a machete, but it is possible.
pretty quickly that these pieces of bamboo weren't naturally cut on site. These pieces of bamboo weren't either, which, as displayed in the video, were attached together then used to siphon water from a river to the pool.
Wait, what? Yeah, you see what I mean? The Roman aqueduct principle. For it to work, that bamboo can never go up. It only can go down. Because if it goes up, the water doesn't flow magically. I know, science and stuff. But yeah, the fact that these channels try to do aqueducts is just mind-bogglingly, wow, really?
Water from a river to the pool, only there was no river. Photo Expression found the exact site of this pool, then stated in his video that in reality, the closest water source was more than 6 kilometers away. Instead, he found a bunch of blue plastic piping attached to a tap in the ground. Going back to the email from the cameraman, the water from their channel just comes in cubic containers that is transported there. A very funny part is any scene where you see them sourcing water from some magnificent waterfall or lake, they're actually going somewhere perhaps hundreds of kilometers away and pretending to take it back. The video in which Photo Expression had stumbled upon various completed primitive builds also showed that after these channels are finished building, the sites are simply left to rot. This video doesn't speak for every Southeast Asian primitive building channel, but in this particular case,
I don't actually see a problem with those buildings left to rot because they're not actually using anything, but for the most I'm pretty sure for the most time they're actually not using anything. But you know, they're pretty much dirt. Yeah. They're not this is not plastic. I'm pretty sure this shouldn't be plastic or whatever. So what difference does it make that it's rotting away or not? None.
Are finished building, the sites are simply left to rot. This video doesn't speak for every Southeast Asian primitive building channel, but in this particular case, rubbish was left everywhere, including, as you might guess, cement bags.
Small thing about cement bags. You can't actually see it there, but cement bags, they see it looks like they are just you know, well, reinforced paper or whatever you want to call it, but that's just around it. In reality, the cement is in plastic. In the inner side of the bag, there's a plastic layer,
bags.
so it doesn't get wet, because the moment cement gets wet, you're fucked.
The fact that the videos are fake isn't the most concerning, it's the destruction of the land that's concerning. Now, if this was public rainforest, you could probably consider this a pretty big deal, but according to the cameraman's email, at least on their channel, every build is done on privately owned land, which is leased for the purposes of the video. If this is the case, maybe Photo Expression is in the wrong for snooping around and filming on someone else.
I'm not sure, but can you actually lease? Who fucking leases the land so it gets altered like that? That seems a little bit odd to me. Again, I think those emails from the cameraman are 100% fake.
Property.
Because he should understand that he most likely needs to provide at least some smidgen of examples why that cameraman email is not fake. Like, this video is technically as fake as all of the other videos he's talking about.
Of course, but if the builds are being completed on privately owned land, it's a little narcissistic to comment on what they should and shouldn't do with it. Primitive tech.
Yeah, like, look at that. It doesn't matter. This is just gonna decay and turn into nothing soon. It doesn't look like they're using anything. It's legitimately just dirt and trees.
And shouldn't do with it. Primitive Technology, the original legitimate Australian channel, put it best in his email to us when he said,
you know what was the most fun part about the Primitive Technology guy, actually? Since he did everything so slowly, I actually loved figuring out what is he gonna do, because a lot of ways that he does it from zero are extremely abstract, and you can't, if you haven't done it yourself, you probably are just guessing what he's doing. And that was pretty fun. I actually loved that about his channel, that I was guessing, wait, so is he gonna do that or is he gonna do this? Well, that was probably the best part about, honestly, his videos.
my advice to people who really want to know if the techniques on display are legitimate is to put them into practice and see. If you can follow the steps and get a similar result, then it's probably legit. He added that these corner-cutting channels are motivated by money and status alone, rather than a true interest in primitive technology. But wanting to stay out of internet drama, will leave it up to the discerning viewer to decide what's real and...
Yeah, he's kind of already there. But anyway, this is the greatest video ever, because Sunny's video... is honestly as fake as every single channel that he just claimed to be fake. It's quite hilarious in that aspect. Anyway, bye-bye.